Okay, I'm back. Well, that was interesting. If you saw my last live, I clicked the off end live like, I don't know, 3 times. It looked like it turned off, and then I was on doing messing around. Me and Kitty, she was falling off the table, so I was setting things up, and then I was like reading the news and all primping and things like that, and I was still on live. That's my life. But you know what? I can have a sense of humor about it and laugh about it. As long as I wasn't cussing the whole time and other various things, then I'm good. Whatever, I'm here to entertain, so that's cool. No, but I wanted to come back and talk about Karen Carpenter and be in a much more serious, um, somber space than politics, because obviously that's not so good. It's not a good mixture. She had such a beautiful, pure voice and energy. I wanted her to have her own space to talk about her. I think I have talked about Karen Carpenter before and channeled her, and but I don't know. I was thinking about her on Saturday morning, and I thought, I really want to talk about her again because I feel like she was very misunderstood. Now, she was the poster child for anorexia. And at one point, I guess what I heard and read was that at one point, her disorder, and it's a disease of the brain. It really is. It's a disorder of the brain where you're starving yourself and you don't see yourself the way that other people see you. So, well, anyway, it was so bad that she was taking 60 laxatives a night. And I just thought, I don't even know how she survived past that more than a year. But what really killed her at the end was that the anorexia, unfortunately, leaves permanent damage if you don't catch it in time, and it leaves damage to the heart. So she took Epicac, I guess, and it killed her after she had been in recovery and was living at her parents' home. Now, if you don't know who Karen Carpenter is, she was a singer in the 1970s and early 80s. She had and late 1960s, 70s, early 80s till her death. And she and her brother, Richard Carpenter, had a duo. It was very popular. She started off as a drummer. He was a classical pianist, I think a jazz pianist. And he was kind of like the star child of the family. Her mother and father felt that he was going to be the star. And she learned how to play drums. She was a fantastic drummer, an incredible. If you ever watch videos of Karen Carpenter drumming, it's like, why did she ever go to singing? But then you hear her voice and you're like, well, of course she had to sing. But her drumming was amazing. She was an amazing drummer. She could have done that alone. But, you hear her voice and you go, wow, she had to sing. She absolutely had. It was a voice of an angel. She influenced me. Now, okay, so let's keep talking about her, though. I won't talk about me. But I'll put a context that I'm a singer, too. I'm a singer. So anyway, she was born March 2nd, 1950 in New Haven, Connecticut. And so what that makes her a Pisces? It's probably Pisces. She's Pisces. And she died February 4th, 1983 in California. Cause of death, congestive heart failure. She was married once to Thomas James Burris for 3 years. Brother Richard, parents Agnes Carpenter and Harold Carpenter. So what, she was like 33 when she died, 32 years old when she died. So what happened to Karen is that she and her brother began to play music and formed this duo. But they had other band members that were in the band, obviously. But they were the front of the group, so it was the Carpenters. And she was a little chubby, petite but chubby. And someone said that when they did a review. And being on stage is hard. It's hard. I've had my own issues. I have body dysmorphic disorder, so I know I've thought about Karen my whole life. And what body dysmorphic disorder is where you see yourself in a distorted way. You see your body like you're too fat, or you're, and pardon the word, or your face, and everything's just, it's like looking in a circus mirror, and other people are like, oh, you look fine, but you see yourself and you're always body checking. But when you look, you see yourself and you're hideous, like a circus mirror. Everything's distorted. So, and every picture is different. Every angle of view is different. And the scariest thing in the world is to go on stage or have a picture taken of you. And so for somebody to say that she was chubby, instead of saying, wow, listen to that voice, or, doesn't she have beautiful eyes and hair, or what an amazing stage presence, they had to go for the looks thing, which that happens to women all the time. It still happens. And what anorexia does is it's a control thing. Somebody says, your body is out of control. You're out of control with eating. You've dieted, but you're gaining weight. So, or your career's out of, or your parents control you, or your brother, and her brother was very controlling. And the music, it was immaculate music. The way they recorded it was immaculate. And she had no control. So what do you control? You control your body. You control your body, because it's the only thing. What you put in your mouth is the only thing you can control when you have anorexia. So it becomes a real control issue. Or if a lot of times what causes anorexia is when a girl begins to, and it's mostly for girls, but there are guys that have it too. Obviously, it's a human thing, but it is for girls mostly. But let's say a girl is starting to develop, she gets her period and she begins to get a chest and her body fills out, and all of a sudden guys are looking at her, but she just wanted to be a little girl for a little bit longer. Maybe she wanted to be daddy's girl or the tomboy in the family, and all of a sudden her body has betrayed her. So she begins to starve herself to stave off development, and people looking at her like an object of sex, which is what happens kind of when you begin to develop and become a woman, quote unquote, menstruate and all that stuff. So that affected her. So to go on stage, the only way I feel like her coping mechanism was to control what she ate and be the skinniest thing on earth, so that no one could ever look at her and say again in an article that she's chubby. And it's really sad, because look how talented she would. Look how many years we would have had her singing. God knows what type of amazing music we would still have. Like, I feel, and I just had the image of, she should have sang, and I have chills. She should have sang one of the Bond songs for a James Bond movie. That would have happened. I feel like that was going to happen, and I'm going to look that up later and see if she'd ever been approached. So another thing that happened was, as the Carpenters became extremely popular, she went off and wanted to do a solo album. And if you've ever seen Bohemian Rhapsody about Queen and Freddie Mercury, he was approached to do a solo album, and he finally did. And it didn't turn out as good as he wanted, but it's that act, it's like leaving your parents and becoming an adult. You have to have that act of independence to finalize it, part of your growth as a human being, an evolution of the soul, and independence is very good. And that would have been good for her. So she actually did record an album, and her brother said, well, I don't think it's good enough. It doesn't sound like her. And I just saw the Carrie movie, the Stephen King movie of Carrie, where the mother says to Carrie, to her daughter, they're all going to laugh at you. There was a lot of that. Other people telling her, you're going to be ashamed of yourself. You're going to be embarrassed. They're going to make fun of you. And God forbid anyone make fun of her. She would shirk into her core and think, okay, well, how do I fix this? How do I fix this? Because I can't have that. So it was shelved. Her solo album was shelved. Looking back now, it would have been maybe at the time, a lot of people in that era of music, like early 80s, people said, oh, well, that was crap. But now you would say, wow, that's amazing. And it would have meant something. The album would have meant something to, like, female fans. It would have. See, the thing about the Carpenters was everybody loved the Carpenters. But it would have sort of endeared her to a lot of female fans. And she didn't exactly have that female base like Taylor Swift has right now. So she was encumbered by her brother, who, he didn't really know that he was doing all that. For him, it was about, he just liked everything to be perfect. and she went along with it because she was a people pleaser. Now, I've gotten other things about her. Was she was a tomboy, and she so that was part of it too. Also, she, in today's context, I think she had, I could be completely wrong, but maybe she would have been slightly bi curious, but I could be wrong about that. But I've kind of always gotten that about her. Like, and I just saw Dusty Springfield. Dusty Springfield was another one of my favorite singers, and she was sort of bisexual, but you know, that's whatever. David Bowie was bisexual, and so I kind of get that about Karen Carpenter, that she would have had that, and that goes back to that female fan base. So, is there anything that Karen Carpenter would like to say? Let's channel her here, and what would she like to say to the world listening? It doesn't have to be about politics right now, but just people in general. So, I'm just going to close my eyes for a bit here. And let her speak through me. I was little, and I was filled with a lot of shame in my body. Everything showed. Everything I ate showed. And everything that showed was noticed by my parents, by my brother, though he tried to be. He was actually very positive, a positive voice for me, encouraged me in many ways. Like, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about what they say. What do they know? But I always had my mother, especially her voice in my head, reminding me, it'll go to your hips, and then your pants won't fit. You'll have to buy a girdle. And that's something that all mothers do, but it hurt me. I just wanted my mother to say that I was beautiful and that she was proud of me, and not notice anything about me. And I know my mother was proud of me, but she would always notice my flaws. And it's as if I didn't notice my flaws before she noticed them. And so, God, I had such bad dialogue in my head. It was like I was in a complete chaos all the time. Unless I was on stage hitting the right notes, I felt complete chaos inside myself. If my pants fit that day, I was great. My hair was right, I was great. Everything's great. Richard did a lot, and the managers did a lot of planning for things. I didn't have to worry about a lot of that. They set everything up. Career-wise, everything was set up for me, so it was sort of easy peasy. But when it came to how I looked and what I would wear, I was in complete chaos every day. I was in turmoil every single day. And then when I found about diet aids, and she's saying diet aids, supplements, I was like, oh, thank God, because I can't do this on my own. I couldn't do this. I couldn't control what I ate. And now I can eat and then just eliminate it with supplements, X-Lax and whatnot. I won't say everything she says for respect of her family and for her. And she's saying thank you. When I was singing, I was on stage, and once that initial fear left me, it was like the cliche of I'm flying, and I'm flying so high. And see, one of the things I asked her is, did you use drugs? And that was one thing that I'm not going to talk about if she did or not. I mean, think about the era. Everybody did something at that point, but not really. And so what she just said to me to clarify that was, when I sang, I was high. Music made me high. Love made me high. I was in love a lot. I had a lot of crushes. So maybe show me and see if she can show me who she had crushes on. She actually showed David Bowie and Elton John and the Beatles. But she said she had a mad, crazy crush on. And she's saying, like, well, she was too old for him, but she thought David Cassidy was really cute. But she liked sort of manly men. So John Travolta, she thought John Travolta was cute. But see, she was scared of men. I'm trying to open my eyes here. She was scared of men. Men scared her. And Richard never approved. Her brother Richard never approves. It'll get in the way of the career. It'll ruin your career. It'll ruin the band. I'm telling you, later. You can do that later. You can have a family later. Let's get the band. Let's get at least 3 or 4 albums in. But that's a lot. You won't be able to tour if you have a family, get married and have a family and a dog and all that. Did you ever write? Did Karen write any songs? Karen, did you write any songs? She shows me 3 or 4 or 7. So it's in the 3, 4, 7 range. Something purple. So it's something emotional, dark. She could play guitar, but not well. And she did write a few songs. Were any of them recorded? She showed, okay, circle it. 2 songs recorded that she wrote herself. Does she have any messages? Karen, do you have any messages? She's glad to see that the girls now in this like Gen Z are embracing their bodies and loving each other and encouraging each other to be healthy in mind and body. And I feel this lightness now, this lightness. I was so stuck in my body. I was so heavy. I was light, but I was heavy. It's like, here I was skin and bones, literally, but I was like an anchor was on me, pulling me to the earth. I was so heavy. I was always just so stuck. Always wanting that chocolate cake, always wanting the hamburger and the fries, but then feeling sick and then feeling guilty and the shame and then having to go throw it up and take the diuretics. And it was just like an endless cycle of shame and disgust and sickness and being unhealthy and being tired and then trying to hide it all and pretend in a life of lying. And so girls these days are so much healthier and they're balancing it out. And I hope that I contributed to that. For a while, it was almost like I was the hidden poster child of how to be anorexic. I didn't want that. Literally, from the other side, I'm screaming, no, I don't want that for you. You don't want that. And so now I see that girls are going the opposite way, in the positive way, and they are embracing their bodies, embracing themselves. And she just showed me Sabrina Carpenter, no relation, I believe, no relation, how free she is in her body. And she's little too, she's little. And she says that Sabrina's had the same thing where people have said she's chubby. It'll show if you eat, it'll show because you're so little, short, petite. She doesn't, and she just used the F word. She doesn't give an F. She's not going to let that kill her career. Girls are much stronger now, and they've taken the power back in the music industry. And that's an honor to me. I'm glad. I'm so relieved for that. And she shows me a child on the other side and a bunny, a dog. So maybe she did have a dog when they passed the child. The child she didn't have but it's also the child that was inside of her that didn't get the love and the nurturing that she really needed. And she says that's one of the most important things, is to learn how to embrace the child inside you that has been hurt and to help nurture it so it doesn't destroy you. We destroy each other. That's it. Let's give her my thanks. Thank you for watching. That was anything else? She says, no, that's it. She says, light a candle for me once in a while. Light a candle for humanity and for peace. That everyone on the other side is standing by and they believe in humanity, that we'll get through everything that's happening right now. And show love to each other. Don't destroy each other. Show love. Life is so precious. Show love. Light the candle for peace. And that's it. Okay, everyone. That's, I know I had my eyes closed most of the time. And thank you, Karen. Thank you. Thank you. I'll try to come on and do other channelings. I like to channel. And I've always been a fan of Karen Carpenter. She's been a big part. I waited till the end to talk about my thing. I remember my mother ran the little library in our small town, and she would have a radio up on the shelf, just on low. And I remember hearing Karen Carpenter one time, and it's like the earth stood still. And I just thought, that's the most beautiful voice I've ever heard. And I sound like her, and my son one time, and I've had people tell me that my whole life, you sound like Karen Carpenter, which is a huge compliment. Oh, in high school, when the Carpenters weren't cool anymore, which how could that be? I was secretly, in my earphones, I was always playing the Carpenters, and because it was so gothic, like it was so gothic, and I love Karen Carpenter. I love her voice, and I love that whole style. I don't know. Anyway, what was I going to say? But I also, again, had body dysmorphia disorder, and my mother would say, and I was really, really skinny, and my mother would say, you're anorexic and you need to eat. And I literally would feel Karen's presence around me, and she would say, don't do what I did. Because there was that urge, because my mother was a lot like her mother. In fact, when I was channeling her, I was like, yeah, I went through that too. I went through that too with my mother. My mother told me I was ugly, and my mother's passed, but I love and forgive her very much. But she did that, and it's caused me a lifetime of body dysmorphic disorder. And you want, when you're a teenager and your mother says you're too skinny, part of you goes, oh, good, she noticed me, and if I keep it up, she'll be worried about me, and then always be thinking of me. And it's like a sick cycle of attention seeking is what it is, but then it's self-harming at the same time. But musically, yeah, so my son, the Carpenters were on like one of those satellite radio stations, and my son heard Karen Carpenter, and he turned to me and he said, Mommy, that's you. That's you on the radio in the music. And I was like, oh, that's such a compliment. And I said, no, that's Karen Carpenter. So yeah, I've always been connected to her my whole life. Love her very much. Love her voice. And John Lennon too. That's funny. I had that moment when I was a little girl. I heard her voice and I thought, that's the most beautiful voice I've ever heard. And I guess John Lennon had the same thing. He heard her voice one time and he said, that's the most, like, it's the same thing. That's the most beautiful voice that he'd ever heard. And I just thought that's funny because I'd have the same moment in my life. Anyway, thanks for watching, you guys. This probably won't post immediately. You know how it is, these things, they hold lives and you'd see them like 10 hours later or whatever. Thanks for being here. I appreciate y'all. It's time for me to go watch Gilmore Girls. I'm like really, really, that's my favorite show. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with Gilmore Girls. So you guys have a great night. Thanks for being here. Bye. And this time it'll turn off. I hope.